Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Today is March 11th, 2024, and this is episode 10 of MindMosaic. Today we're going to talk about, as this is Nature Month and Earth Month, we're going to talk about something that's very integral to nature and the function of a lot of the natural systems that we can perceive and experience on this planet. That something being the concept of cycles. Now, I don't just mean bicycles. I mean cycles of change, of renewal, of the movement of resources and energy in this motion that it ends up at some point where it began. And then it continues on to loop back around again. Now, there's a lot of different types of cycles in nature, but today we're going to focus on three main ones. Those being the water cycle, the energy cycle, and the life cycle, or the matter cycle. So all three of these are very interesting, but before we really dive into each of them specifically, I'm just going to give like a brief overview of what cycles are and why they work. Basically, the reason why Earth and why nature uses these cycles is because there's a finite amount of resources here. And so in order to keep them all moving, to keep them all in use, the Earth has to, and nature kind of has to recycle them. And it's funny because nature is really like the queen of recycling, because nature recycles pretty much everything. It recycles all of its materials and changes them constantly. Everything is in a state of constant change, moving, changing into something else. So cycles are kind of nature's way of maintaining itself, really, making sure everything is working properly. So without further ado, let's dive into the first cycle that we're going to talk about, and that being the water cycle. So as you can see behind me, there are clouds in the sky. And clouds, everyone knows this, but it's interesting to kind of like really think about this. Clouds are literally water in the sky. They're like sky oceans or sky lakes. They are condensed water that has evaporated off of the earth. And obviously everyone knows rain comes from clouds, which is water falling back down to the ground. So when you notice that, you're seeing this cycle of water. Water evaporates, it condenses in the clouds, it precipitates, falls back to the earth, where it then can once again evaporate. That's how the water cycle works. But there's also an interesting component that is kind of left out of a lot of the water cycle conversations, and that is us human beings. Right now, I'm sitting on I'm pretty sure this is a water storage facility. Like, I'm sitting on top of this giant thing, and I can hear in this pipe there's water flowing through. And so I'm imagining that this whole thing is a giant reservoir full of water. Now, why do we need this? Because humans need water to live. All life does. Water is an essential ingredient in making sure that life can function properly. It's kind of the emulsifying agent of life. It allows all of your systems to flow properly. It kind of like lubricates your body. It allows the systems that take place within your body to happen smoothly and not get all dry. You know, we get thirsty when we don't have water. Our skin, when it's dry, it doesn't feel right, you know? We need water. We need water to survive. All plants do, all animals do. Every living thing on Earth needs water. And possibly every living thing in the universe needs water. We don't know. But at least here on this planet, water is essential. And so when you realize that, you realize like humans are just as much a part of the water cycle as the clouds are, because I am a vessel for water. Just as this pipe is a vessel for water, I am a vessel for water as well. There's water inside me. There's water around me. And when I sweat, the water comes out of my skin. I am, in a sense, evaporating when I sweat. That's water leaving me, and going back up into the atmosphere, where it can then fall again, and then where I can drink it and ingest it back into my body. What's crazy about how water works and how water flows through the how water moves through the water cycle is that it's all the same water, right? So it's the same water getting recycled over and over and over again. The molecules themselves aren't changing. It's just the way in which they exist is changing. Sometimes they might be in a gaseous form, sometimes they might be liquid, sometimes they might be solid, sometimes they might be inside a human, sometimes they might be inside this pipe underneath me, sometimes they might be in the ground, you know? But it's all the same water. It's all getting recycled over and over and over again. I asked ChatGPT earlier, I asked it yesterday, what the likelihood is that the water, I had like a cup of water, I was like, what's the likelihood that like the water in my water bottle was once in the blood of a dinosaur? And it said like it can't give an exact percentage, obviously, but it said more than likely the chances are over 90%, which is crazy. Because it seems ridiculous at first to think of that, but then you kind of start to realize, wait a minute, like dinosaurs existed for millions and millions of years. So it's like, yeah, most of the water that exists in drinkable form was once in dinosaurs. It's very likely that like the water that you have like in the cup next to you or that you're drinking right now, which you should be, like, drink a lot of water. Water is very good. You gotta drink more water than you think. It's very likely that that water could have been in the blood of like ancient warriors or priests, like, because it's all the same water. It's getting recycled over and over and over again. So there's a high likelihood. There's the likelihood that the water you're drinking was once inside a plant or animal is like so high. It's like, it's almost guaranteed that at some point the water that you consume was consumed by some other animal, which is just amazing to think about that. The way that like the water is just moving through all of us, you know? It's where we all share the same water. So moving on, because this is kind of a similar story, the sun above me is shining down copious amounts of light and heat. Now, what those two things have in common is that they're both forms of energy. Energy is also essential for the survival of life on Earth, and most likely on other planets as well. Energy is kind of like what powers us, you know? You need energy to power your phone. You plug in your phone and it delivers energy to it. You need energy to power movement. I need energy to like pick up this book, to like move this. Everything that happens requires energy. It's Newtonian physics. An object that is in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an outside force, and an object that isn't in motion will remain motionless unless acted upon by an outside force. Things require energy in order to happen. Nothing will stay the same if nothing forces it to not stay the same, basically. Things need something to catalyze it into motion, and that includes sound, that includes light, that includes heat, that includes movement. Everything that happens is triggered by another form of energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can merely change form. So I can use my hand to like do that, and I'm transforming kinetic energy into vibrational energy that then reverberates throughout the air and into my ears, and you can hear the sound of that. Another example could be, I don't know, you can like, you know, have like a hand cranked radio, and you're turning kinetic energy into stored energy in the battery of the radio. Yeah, so it can't be created or destroyed, it can just be transformed into a different form. So what does this have to do with cycles and with life on Earth? Well, every living thing on Earth is solar powered. not just plants. Plants photosynthesize, so in that way it's very intuitive that they're solar powered. They use sunlight to turn carbon dioxide and water into glucose, which they can then consume. So they're basically turning sunlight into stored energy, or they're using sunlight to power a chemical reaction that transforms water and carbon dioxide into a viable form of stored energy. I think it's called ATP. So plants turn sunlight into glucose. Glucose is sugars. Glucose is starches that are now bioavailable nutrients to animals. So animals can then consume a plant. You eat like a fresh apple. It's full of all these sugars and starches that were once, and that energy that's within that apple, that's all of these sugars and starches, that energy was once sunlight that was then transformed into glucose by the tree, and now you can eat it and transform it into energy that you use to power your body and move around and speak and see and think, and all of the wonderful things that we associate with being human is all ultimately comes from the sun. Even if you're eating meat, that meat is still coming from the sun, because the animals that you're eating got that energy from plants, and those plants got that energy from the sun. So you can see that all of us, we're all solar powered here. All of the things that we do, all of it, when you run, that's solar energy that's being transformed into you running, which is crazy to think about that. It's like we are really like these super advanced organic machines that are able to change energy into different forms and use that energy to do all of the things that we do. As we use up the energy in our body, it actually radiates off of us as heat. So it goes back out into space, really, is what happens. Or it just heats up the atmosphere a little bit. Whenever we like run and stuff, that's why your body temperature increases when you use up the energy of your body that you gain from food. So it's like the sun is transformed into food, we eat the food, we transform it into movement, and the movement creates heat, which then goes back out into space. So that's two, that's the water cycle and the energy cycle, but there's still one more, and that's the matter cycle, which is a very interesting one. You can also call it the life cycle, or the life and death cycle. Basically, every living thing has a body, and that body is made of matter. It's made of elements. Things like hydrogen and carbon and nitrogen and oxygen, right? Our bodies are made of these elements. But there's only a finite amount of those things on this planet. So how does nature deal with this for there to still be things being born every second, And that is through this matter cycle. And basically, this is why things are born and why things die, because we're all sharing this stuff. We're all sharing this matter here. I'm only gonna claim ownership over these elements for the time that I'm alive, for the duration of my life, because I inherited these elements from other animals and other plants that have since died, and when I die, I will pass on these elements back to plants and animals that have yet to be born. Every human being, every plant, every animal is made of dead stuff, basically. Every atom in your body was once an atom in someone else's body. Because it's all getting cycled through each and every one of us. So it's like when a person dies, when a plant dies, when an animal dies, it falls to the ground, where its body is basically digested by the earth. Certain scavenger animals will come, usually like mammals or birds will come, they'll eat your body. Then once they're done, bugs will finish all of the little extra things that they didn't get and just completely like clean your bones. And then when that's done, mushrooms will do the rest of the work, and they like really get down to the bare bone. They just like digest you completely. And what that means, to be digested, is the same thing as when you eat the meat of another animal. You're taking the flesh of a dead animal, you're ingesting it into your body, where it then becomes part of your body. It's like super complicated, but also super simple at the same time. You're basically just like taking something else's body, putting it in your body, and then it becomes your body. And yeah, that's just how it works. It's weird, it's a little freaky, but this is nature. Nature is kind of freaky, and it's just how it is. Get with it, you know? But yeah, it's the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, because everything is born, everything dies, and then everything is born again in new life, because everything is constantly recycled. Death is not the end of life. Death is a transition into a new life. In order for something to come alive, it must be dead. In order for something to die, it must be alive. So you can see how it is a cycle. Death and birth are actually holding hands, because they are kind of one and the same. It's a transition. It's a transition from one lifetime into the next. So, and you can see this as like a like case for the afterlife, but that's not really what I'm talking about. Like, you could see it that way, but what I'm talking about is just kind of a biological. What I'm talking about is just kind of a feature of biology, and that is this cycle of life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth, etc. Really just life, death, life, death, life, death. It's just a cycle of life and death, constantly flowing, moving from one state to the next, from one state to the opposite state, and back, and back, and back and forth, again and again. It's life and death. It's like in The Lion King, when Mufasa's talking to Simba, and he's saying, I think it's something that he says something like, while we live, we eat the antelope. And there's a sacrifice that the antelope makes because it's getting eaten by a lion. But the lion, one day, will grow so old that it can't hunt anymore, or it'll get injured and it can't hunt anymore, at which point it will starve to death. And when the lion starves to death, it just lays down, and its body is recycled back into the biosphere, and it becomes the grass, and then the antelope eat the grass. That's what the quote is. It's something like that. When we die, we become the grass, the antelope eat the grass. And that's exactly what it is. It's the circle of life. I forget the lyrics, but it's that song like puts it really well, because that's exactly what it is. We're all part of the circle of life. We all depend on each other. We all are exchanging and sharing resources, energy, water, matter. It's all moving through each and every one of us. We get locked into this narrow view of seeing ourselves as individuals, but really, we're completely interconnected with each other. I'm not going to get too into that, because I'm going to save that for next episode. But yeah, that's basically how it works. We're all sharing stuff here, you know. We're all exchanging our nutrients. We're all exchanging our resources, our energy, our water. It's all flowing through each and every one of us, and it never stops. It just is a flow. It's just a movement through all of us. We, as individuals, are born and die. We are temporary. but the things that make us up, the energy, the vital forces, the water, and all of the things that make up what we are is eternal, and it continues on. It just changes form. We are like the temporary channels through which this life force flows. And when it's in us, we are animated, we are incarnate, and when it moves on, our bodies fall away because they are no longer containers for the vital essence. They are just empty. And they can get recycled back into it, back into the flow of it all. Death is kind of an illusion. Death is just the end of one little chapter in the flow of it all. Death is just really is just necessary. Death is just the resulting situation, the resulting scenario of life in motion. Life in motion leaves death behind it. And death is in front of it too. Death is just the absence of life. And life is just the absence of death. They go like completely hand in hand. But it's a cycle, you know? It's a perpetual kind of back and forth of these states that are dualistic, but also in a perfect harmony and in perfect balance with each other. Again, it's like the force. It's like the dark and the light side of the force. It's nature. And nature likes to play this game of life and death, of rebirth, of change. Nature is change, you know? Nature isn't, nature is a living thing. And to be alive is to be in motion and to be in a dynamic dance of change, of not staying the same. And that's why we die. And that's why we're born. Because nature is change, and we are nature. We cannot be forever human. Nothing can be forever as it is. It all changes. The only thing that can be forever as it is change itself. The only constant is change, and change is completely unchanging. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say. Change is constant. Everything moves in cycles. Everything moves always, and doesn't stop. Everything is in a constant flow. Death is an illusion. And we're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy. We're not here to take it too seriously. There's definitely moments where it seems like things are very serious, but in hindsight, you kind of realize that it all had to happen in order for you to be where you are right now, you know? It all fits together, and it all moves together. So just enjoy it, just embrace it, just go along for the ride, because it's a wild ride, and it's worth it in my opinion. It's fun, it's exciting, it's lovely, it's exhilarating, you know, to be alive, to be on this planet, to be a member of the ecosystem, to be native to this planet. It's a blessing, you know? And sure, it comes with its challenges, but everything does. And in my opinion, the challenges are what gives it its beauty, you know? The challenges, they make it real. So just appreciate it, because gratitude is, it's medicine. Gratitude is a really potent form of grace, and it can bring a lot of levity to the challenging and heavy things in life. To honor them and to be grateful for the challenges is, I think, what allows us to move through them. Because it's an opening. To be grateful is a form of acceptance. And it goes beyond acceptance because it's saying, I appreciate the challenge. Because it is an incentive for evolution. So yeah, enjoy it. Keep evolving. And I'll see you the next time. Have a good one, guys. See ya.